Hello again. We are Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to preview Missouri's road trip to face the Texas A&M Aggies in College Station. You can catch that 11 Central on ABC or ESPN Plus. BetOnline has Texas A&M as of Monday morning a 1.5-point favorite with an over/under of 50, making for a predicted final of Texas A&M 26, Missouri 24. My model has A&M by a half point. Missouri comes off a bye week, had a wake-up call with a double overtime win in Columbia over Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, A&M riding high coming off a 21-17 win over Arkansas in Jerry's World. Very interesting matchup. A&M has been on a winning streak since that heartbreaking loss to Notre Dame. Missouri yet to be beaten as the Tigers try to make the college football playoff. Chase.
Interesting matchup. I mean, just when you look at those things you just said, and I feel like both of these teams, are still trying to find themselves, get into a rhythm, and I thought that was a really good win for A&M against their rival Arkansas there, and they came through when they needed it the most defensively to make that happen, and so tip of the hat to A&M, and yeah, Missouri's had some extra time for this game, and so I think it sets up for what should be a fun game to start the day on Saturday.
All right, we usually start the matchup analysis with the road team having the ball. That's Missouri. The Tigers average 36.5 points a game on 78 snaps. That's a really high number. They turn it over 1.6% of the time. They average 5.4 yards per rushing play. And remember, sacks are taken out of that and added into or against passing plays, where Missouri averages a disappointing 6.7 yards per pass play for an average of 6.1 yards per snap. Missouri has got exactly a 50% run pass balance. As for the Aggies defense, they give up 18 points a game on just 62 snaps, a 1.3% turnover rate. Teams throw it 54% of the time against the Aggies, 5.9 yards per pass play, 4.8 per rushing play, 5.4 per play period. I think this is an interesting matchup because you've got one of the league's better receiving cores. You've got one of the more experienced and better quarterbacks in Brady Cook. And you've got an A&M defense that has started to show a little bit more of its ability to get after the passer, which was a big thing we underscored with the Aggies coming into this season, Chase.
Yeah, that it does set up for an interesting matchup. Just looking at Missouri offensively, Brady Cook has been he's been good. He's 92 of 134, 946 yards, 4 touchdowns. He does have an interception with a 68.7% completion rate, and he's got some great receivers to throw to as well. Luther Burden, of course, he has 257 yards, 4 touchdowns. Theo Wease has been big. He leads in yardage, 26 receptions, 287 yards. He's been fun to watch, and then you look at the rushing stats with Nate Noel, who's really turned it on and been impressive to start the season for Missouri, and so they've got some guys to go along with Brady Cook, who I feel like is having a good year, and then offensive line I think is really good and that I feel like what's going to set up a good matchup here is yes, Missouri has some weapons, but they also have a talented offensive line that we're going to see go to battle with this defensive front of Texas A&M, who, like you mentioned, have done have really come on, and we knew they were going to be good. Nick Scourton leading the charge there for A&M, but it'll be interesting to see those two go at it, the lines of both. And if they're able to pressure Brady Cook, that could be an issue for Missouri if they're not, one, able to get Noel and Carroll going in the run game, but two, if there's a lot of pressure on Cook and he's not able to have the time he needs, that could be a big turning point, I feel like, in this game.
Yeah, Missouri's only given up 4 sacks, so they've done a pretty good job of protecting the passer. Now, they've not seen a line like this one. You mentioned Scourton. They've also got Shemar Turner, who's played pretty well of late. Those are 2 NFL defensive linemen. So going to be a treat of a matchup on that side of the ball. Before we get into the other side of the ball, when the Aggies have it, we remind you BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff. Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000 when the game is over. Head on to our online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, the Aggies, when they've got the ball, here's the numbers so far. They have averaged 28 points a game. Sorry, make that 29 on 67 snaps, a turnover rate of about 2.4%. You'd like to see that get a little bit better. The Aggies will run it 61% of the time. They are averaging 5.8 yards per rushing play, which is excellent. They will average 6 yards per passing play, a total of 5.1 yards on average per offensive snap. Missouri's defense has been very good, although the opposition has been a little suspect in a few of these games. Missouri giving up 12 points a game, just 54 snaps. That's a big number. Missouri forcing turnovers just 0.9% of the time. You'd like to see that get a little bit better. Teams will run it 56% of the time against Missouri. They average 3.4 yards per running play, 4.9 per passing play for a total of 4.1 yards. I think where we want to start this one is, who do the Aggies use at quarterback this week? Is it Marcel Reed, or do they go back to Connor Weigman, depending on health?
Yeah, that's a big question. We did not see Connor Weigman against Arkansas. We'll find out, middle of the week what the injury report says. He was listed as questionable going into the game last week, and then we found out he was out. And so he's still working back from injury. He apparently has taken reps in practice, and they're trying to get him back acclimated. So who knows who we see? I think Marcel Reed has done a fair job. He's 43-79, 585 yards with 6 touchdowns thrown, and then he can get it done on the ground as well, where he has a couple of touchdowns and 230 yards. So I thought he's done well, and he could be elusive. He can be very hard to stop, and so I think whichever quarterback plays, they have 2 good quarterbacks, but I think Missouri could struggle with Reed perhaps.
Yeah.
He could do some things that Weigman can't, and so. I think that'll be interesting to see, really, if Missouri can stop the run game between Le'Veon Moss, Marcel Reed, Amari Daniels. These guys who get touches right of the ball are very dangerous for A&M. And so, look, Missouri's defense is going to have their handful regardless, but I think with an elusive quarterback like Marcel Reed, that throws another wrinkle into it.
Yeah, no, note Missouri has now played a mobile quarterback 3 games in a row. You go back to Thomas
Yeah.
Castellanos of Boston College. Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt did some nice things against them a couple of weeks ago. So a little prep on the side of preparing for what A&M will show on Missouri's side, presuming it's Reed that we see.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And those quarterbacks, again, were able to do some stuff on Missouri. So they have practice with that, like you mentioned. So I think that does set up another interesting thing there.
All right, let's get into picks and why. And Chase, I'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Missouri. I think they go on the road. They get the win. I think Missouri, they had a taste of that close game against Vanderbilt, and see that they've had an extra week for this one. Hey, you got to buckle up. If you're a playoff team, you win those games, and you got to come through following that. So I think Missouri goes on the road. It is a very tough place to play there in College Station, but I think Missouri can get it done and keep their eye on that college football playoff.
Yeah, is it just me? It feels like every conference game that A&M has played for like the last 2 or 3 years has been like 24-21 or something like that. So I think it's going to be close. I think A&M is just a really good football team. I don't know that A&M is a great team. I could give you a path to it being a great team. And Missouri, I feel like, has been underwhelming, wouldn't be fair, but I think expectations, there've been a lot of them placed on Missouri. And I feel like this time last year, at some point, maybe it was a little bit after this point in the season, but Missouri started to get it together. And the reasons were multiple. One is that Brady Cook really came into his own, and Brady Cook has faced a lot of things. He's faced doubts, he has faced good teams. And he's come up big. He led Missouri's charge to a big bowl win a year ago. And so I think Brady Cook, although it's been a little underwhelming at times, and I think he's missed some throws in the passing game, I think he can get better. I think Missouri with those receivers, and I think Luther Burden has been, I'm not going to say he's been underutilized, but the stats have not been what we've thought. And despite that, Missouri's still unbeaten. I think Nate Noel really showed up and did some great things against Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago. Now he will face a much tougher front. But when I look at the who's done it before, I feel like Missouri just checks more boxes. And the run defense for them has been really good. Le'Veon Bell's been very good for A&M, but I feel like Missouri has shown, although this will be the best running attack they faced, and so it's not apples to apples. I just feel like Missouri's got some answers where A&M's got some questions. I will take the Tigers to win, Chase, but I will be very surprised if it's more than a touchdown either way, barring like a pick six in garbage time where one team's trying to score. So I think that's what we're looking at. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to recap it, which we will do afterwards. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. That is free. Enable your notifications so you see that. Give this video a thumbs up if you don't mind. That helps our analytics. We cover baseball, basketball, and football in the SEC year-round. We reach millions of people a year. Caroline.Smith at southeastern14.com. If you are interested in advertising, for Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.